This week on SibRiv.
There was someone that had a bottle and it was crinkling, and then someone was tapping their feet and then their arms and everyone was talking. I was like crawling out of my skin. I said to Mike, I am going to go walk down the street. I need peace and quiet. It was the most peaceful walk down the street and back. You guys had gone to Cumbies, I think, because Dave needed to buy some cigarettes.
My own coping mechanism, yeah.
Welcome to episode 4 of the world-famous SibRiv Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dana, and I'm joined here by my brother and sister.
Hi, I'm Dave.
I'm Michelle, the baby.
How are you two doing this week?
Good. I know. I say the same thing every week.
You want like a play-by-play of how the week went or what?
I just figured someone would have something quirky or witty to say.
Well, so I realized that my PlayStation 5 has been collecting dust. Like there's like a literal layer of dust on it that I had to wipe off. So I decided to reacquaint myself with my PlayStation 2. So I've been playing that, not the PS5. The PS5 is still basically, I don't think I've touched that thing in like 8 or 9 months. So I've been playing my PlayStation 2. That's been fun.
So moral of Dave's story is it collects dust, so let it collect more.
Yeah, right? I thought you were going to be like, so I busted it out and now I'm playing my PS5. And you're like, no, I'm playing my PS2 from 20 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but people, Michelle will know this line. Dana, I don't know if you ever watched How I Met Your Mother. You know, Barney's whole newer is always better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless she's hot.
I actually don't feel that way about like modern gaming or movies or whatever. I find myself, maybe it's just because I'm getting old, but I find myself looking back towards games and movies from like 20, 30 years ago. I just find them more compelling than anything that's coming out now.
Is that because it brings back lots of vivid memories?
Could be part of it. Yeah.
So Dave gave us a great segue into today's topic, which is memories. And I figured it would be a good jumping off point for some conversation with my brother and sister to talk about some topics around memory, things. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the studies that have been done for years because I've always found that pretty fascinating. So a lot of things you'll hear when people talk about memory, a lot of people think about like getting old, losing your memory, dementia, Alzheimer's, and then some of the more newer age theories of people talking about false memories, Mandela effect. Have you two heard of the Mandela effect?
Yes.
Which is like a giant shared memory of a group of people that remember something that didn't happen, supposedly. Then there was the rage, 20, 30 years ago when repressed memories.
Oh, that was
Dave,
back in the 80s.
Yeah. Dave, I'm sure a lot of this you've studied in psychology as well, but when you think about like things like false memory came out of the studies of repressed memories because people like Elizabeth Loftus, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, she's a psychologist. She really pioneered the studies of false memories, did a lot of research around running psychological studies where they would give people scenarios and then try to implant fake memories to them about scenarios. And she reported having a high degree of success with that. Her work's been kind of called into question over the last several years because a lot of people have had a harder time replicating what she did. Things like false memories would be, you'd find people arguing in court and stuff like criminal cases, witnesses. That's why because of the false memories, a lot of people say witness testimony in court is one of the least reliable forms of testimony because people's memory can be unreliable. So, which I thought is an interesting thing to talk about because we all have memories. Every human being should have memories. Even those that have poor memory remember some things. People with dementia might not remember things that happened immediately, but they might remember something random that happened, 70 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Confuse it. So, and then there's other memories that people get worried about, like that are normal everyday memories, like scenario. Say you're in the living room and you're watching TV, and like a commercial for a gym comes on, and you think to yourself, "Oh, my gym bill's in the kitchen. I should go grab that, and it's late. I should pay that when I get a chance." So you say to yourself, "Oh, I'm going to go in the kitchen and pay that gym bill," and then your show ends. You go into the kitchen, and then you completely forget what you went in there for. And then you're like walking to the fridge, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know what I was." Then you walk back in the room, you look at the TV, and then the gym commercial comes on, and you go, "Oh, the gym bill." So that happens to a lot of people, and they start thinking, "Oh, that happens to me all the time. Am I getting dementia?" And that's like a normal. The researchers say that's completely normal to happen. There's nothing wrong with you. When it is a problem is when you're like out at the store and you're standing in front of your car and you don't recognize your own car. That's when that type of stuff is a problem. So let's just talk about our own memories. So I gave you guys a list of questions to think about. And I figured we could all answer them about our own memories, about our own past lives, and different scenarios that happened. So Michelle, I'm going to start with you. And I'm going to ask you, do you have a memory of that you have 3 of us together that you could think of that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I really had to think back because my younger years, Dave was out of the house, so the memories of the 3 of us are more recent. What I came up with was, for my favorite memory of the 3 of us was when Dave had come to surprise you and Mom for the September birthdays, and we all slept at my house. We had like a little sibling sleepover. And I just remember we were up till like, I don't know, 2 or 3 in the morning playing board games and laughing. It was just the best time. And then we got up at like 7 to have breakfast with Mom and Auntie and, the fam. And I loved that sleepover. It was just like having all of us under one roof again was the best feeling. Oh, I loved it. So
That was
mine.
like 4 years ago.
Yeah, I said it was recent. Because I can't, I'm trying to remember. Like, I remember you coming home from leave, coming home on leave, I should say. But I don't remember anything specific about, like, yeah, we did this, we did that. It was just, like, visiting. I remember, broad memories of, like, going to Auntie's in the summer and, like, having the family there. I remember us waking you up one morning on Christmas because we were all up, me, Dana, Mom, my dad, we were all up and Dave was sleeping, and we went in and sang "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" to wake you up. Like, I remember little things like that, but I feel like the majority of the 3 of us is more recent, which I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. I had a lot of trouble remembering from our childhood a memory where all of us were together.
There it is.
That's the party.
That's the party. Yeah. Yep. Dana's 40th, right?
Yes, it was office themed.
Office themed, yep.
Oh, it was so fun. That was the best.
So, what do you remember about that day, Dave? Or that weekend, really?
Well, I remember that weekend because originally, I was like talking to Shell because we're like, oh, I should make a surprise visit for Dana's 40th, right? And then I was like, well, Mom's birthday is like 2 days before, so I'll surprise her too. So we didn't tell anybody that I was coming to town. And I remember how disappointed I felt because Michelle and I were taking bets on, like, do we think Mom's going to cry? We think Mom's going to cry. And Mom didn't. She just, we invited her over for dinner because I made her a special dinner. And she's like, oh, hey. Auntie cried when she saw me, but because she was surprised. But
I teared up.
Dana,
was
yeah,
very
my brother
excited.
teared up. Mom was just like, "Oh, hi, honey." Like,
No, she wasn't. She was like, "Oh my god! Oh my word! Oh my word!" You know, she was not. I don't think she was ever really like a happy crier. You know,
well,
um,
but this kind of fits with the theme of what we're talking about, right? Because my memory of her reaction is very different than Michelle's memory of her reaction,
yeah,
right? So, but I just remember her being like, "Oh, hi, honey." She wasn't like mean or anything. She was just like, "Oh, hi, honey," and I'm like,
yeah. Like I
"That's
see you
it."
every day. Oh, look at that! I love that. Um, I remember Auntie the second she saw you, instant tears. Like
Yeah.
she couldn't contain it. That was a good surprise.
It
That
was
was
a,
a good one.
I was very shocked. I was the last thing I expected.
Yeah, I knew Dana would be surprised because I knew he wouldn't expect me to make the trip. So, yeah.
Well, we had mentioned it, like me, Caitlin, and Mike had been talking about it, and we mentioned it in front of one of the boys. And I was like, oh no, I'm like, that's it. I'm like, he's gonna know
No, they did
because
good. They didn't say
they
a
did
word.
really good. I was shocked.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep a secret like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what I do remember? I almost had the thought of backing out of that trip. And I swear this, I remember thinking to myself, I don't know if I'm going to have the opportunity to do this for, Dana, I was thinking like he'll always be around, which is not realistic. But in my head, I'm like, I don't know how much longer mom's going to be around. And little did I know 3 months later,
Mm.
right? So that's one thing I remember thinking that of maybe I won't go. And then I was like, no, I gotta go.
Thank
So
God you did.
yeah.
Oh, he looks so good there.
How about you, Dave? Do you have any memories of the three of us together?
Like Michelle, they're all recent.
Really?
That weekend, yeah. Um, I remember like you and Caitlin's wedding, right? I remember I remember that December shortly after your birthday. I remember that. But even that I remember differently than you guys. When mom passed away, I have different I remember specifically different things that you both totally remember differently.
Oh.
Really?
So
Like
so
what?
I remember
I was gonna say,
so
like, what?
I remember when we went in there, mom was saying, "I'm ready to go home." And I remember thinking she thinks we're gonna take her home.
Okay, so I was wondering if this was going to come up because I think this is going to be a good conversation if we talk about grief. But I mean, we can dabble into this because I have
Well, yeah,
I know she was saying that. Like I remember her saying that, but
Me too.
I think everyone's interpretation of what she was saying is different,
I
right?
think knowing her in her faith, I think when she was saying I'm ready to go home, she was like I'm ready to go home to the Lord. Like she
well,
was ready.
I
That's
remember
what I think.
you guys both told me that she said those words specifically.
What's that?
I'm ready to
I
go
think
home to the Lord.
she was saying both, right? But I also think because this is the tough thing about when someone's been very low on oxygen for. I've seen this happen. Like I
Yeah.
watched this happen with Caitlin's uncle too. So when someone's had extended periods of time, like we're talking days to weeks with very extremely low oxygen, it really, really affects their brain chemistry and they get very confused and it really changes who they are. I think part of her was saying, I'm ready to come to the Lord. I think there was another part of her brain that was saying, I'm literally ready just to go home. Like I think literally, like she literally meant that too. So I think we have a case where, like in her altered state, because she was so low on oxygen. I remember when we walked into that room, and just thinking like I was not shocked. She looked exactly as I expected. Like she was not in good shape. She was very different than the mom we all remembered, because I've seen it. I've seen that deterioration before, so I was already kind of prepared for it. I don't know what you guys were expecting when you went into that room, but I was kind of like I had already readied myself to see mom not herself completely, although there were still bits of her in there.
Yeah, I think differently, actually. I think she was a lot more alert than I thought, because when my dad passed, that he was like almost vegetative towards the end, and like I had to tell him it was okay to go. Like it was very different. He was not alert. Where when we came in and with mom, and she was like, "Okay, I'm ready to go home," and then I remember, I don't mean to laugh, but I remember she looked and was like, "Okay, what's next? Like, what do I
Yeah, I
do?"
remember that too.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
we were like, "Just relax, let the Ativan kick
Yeah.
in. Like, it's gonna be okay, you know."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she was like, "Come on, let's get this. Like, let's get this going." But yeah, I feel like she was 100% there with her mind. I don't feel that when she said she wanted to go home, I think she meant she wanted to go home to God. Like she was going to heaven. I don't think she had any doubt.
I think what to answer Dana's question, I was expecting her to be very somnolent and almost comatose, just because I knew, right, like having reduced oxygen capacity for 10 days. I thought she would be almost unconscious when we went in there, so I was surprised.
Well, because
I
she was
wasn't
still
surprised at the confusion. I knew there would be a lot of confusion, but yeah.
agitation. Like I was everything I was expecting. I saw when I went in there. Yeah, so I was ready for. What I was not ready for was looking at David and seeing him crying, because that was when I started crying. But
I don't have any recollection of that happening.
because I can't ever remember a time seeing my brother cry. So when I saw him crying in that room, I freaking broke down and just collapsed onto mom.
Yeah, that was a crazy day. I remember waking David up that morning. I remember
I
being
remember
like, we gotta go. Stephen called, we have to go. I remember the ride home. I remember who called me on my ride home. It was Micah. I don't know if I can say that, but he called, just to tell us sorry. I remember telling David, maybe we should save this for the grief podcast, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just remember the ride home. I remember we were at the kitchen table. Everyone had come over to our house, and I just remember everything was really loud. There was someone that had a bottle and it was crinkling, and then someone was tapping their feet, and then their arms on everyone was talking. I was like crawling out of my skin. I said to Mike, I said, I am going to go walk down the street. I need peace and quiet. It was the most peaceful walk down the street and back. You guys had gone to Cumbies, I think, because Dave needed to buy some cigarettes.
My own coping mechanism. Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember the three of us standing outside in the driveway just talking, and while everyone else was in the house. I remember that. So I guess that's not a least favorite memory, but it's a vivid memory of the three of us.
So point out that day, those days following, there were a lot of tears shed. There was a lot of low points for the three of us specifically. So anyone watching that's dealing with grief, I mean, we are 3 years removed from that. I mean, we're all still grieving, right, in our own different ways. But we can look back on some of these memories. I mean, it can actually make us smile and laugh too. Like, it doesn't all have to be miserable when you start thinking about what that person meant to you, and how, like, mom brought us all together, and even in death, she still brought us together. So it seems cliche to say it gets better, but it gets different. It evolves, and it evolves. Yeah. So my memory of the three of us is way back. Actually, this is David's first marriage. And sorry, Hawaii, but it's nothing to do with his marriage itself. It was the first time. So Shelly, you would have been like 14, 15?
Yeah, like 15, 16, I think. I think I was
so
a
I was
sophomore.
like, I was 21, right? So it was, what I remember about that is we spent like that whole weekend together, the three of us and David's, some of your friends. Right?
We went to some Chinese food restaurant. Yeah. Didn't we? The three of us?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, Shelly was 14. She's struggling. So I remember like that. I remember that weekend we hung at Donna's house and we had a really good time. And I remember the wedding reception specifically. The three of us were like inseparable. Like after the dinner, it's everyone's kind of like tuckered out from dancing in the first part of the reception. The three of us were still going, and we were like inseparable the whole night. And so I always thought,
like
and I saw like stumbled across the video of that wedding, and I ignored everything. I just wanted to watch the reception because I didn't even know there was video of it, but I wanted to know if my memory served me correctly. Were the three of us really like inseparable? And we were. I was watching the reception, and me and Shell were following Dave around everywhere.
Just our cool older brother.
Yeah. So let's just like a little 16-second clip of the three of us hanging out. Let's see.
Oh my gosh. I remember we had a really nice picture of the three of us taken at that wedding. I have to see if I can try to find
I turned the volume down so we don't get copywritten, but we're dancing to We Are Family here.
Oh my gosh. Look at me.
Just the three of us on the floor. And this was what it was like half the night. It was just the three of us. So I just always think about that. I always think about that night very fondly because like I remember thinking it was the first Shelley, it was like the first time like you were just old enough to like kind of like really understand hanging out with the two older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I remember kind of the sadness that David was going to have to go back to England at the time. But it was the first time, it was really the first really big memory I have of the three of us hanging out together and wanting to hang out together, if that makes sense. Which is why I've always cherished that memory. And I was so excited when I found the video, not because of the wedding or whatever, that's ancient history, just because I wanted to know if my memory was correct, which it was. So I was very
Where did you find that video? Who took
Mom
video
had it.
of that?
Mom had it. I
Oh
don't know
my
who took it, but
gosh.
so
Wow.
Well, one of my friends back then actually did record and put together the DVD.
Oh,
Put it on
so
a
that's probably what it
DVD.
was. Okay.
That's probably where Mom got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. That
But,
is so
Yeah,
funny.
but we were together like half the night. We were together, just like inseparable, dancing, goofing around, having fun. It was
Oh.
so. That was my memory of the three of us. So mine goes back a little bit further than you two do.
I love that because I don't really remember. I remember the dress. I remember getting ready. I remember being outside of the church and like people were hovering and we were waiting for everyone to go in so that like the bride and everyone could, like I remember bits and pieces. So I'm so glad that you had this because I love to watch that. That's the best. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's so good.
Doing the whitest white people
I was
dance
just
of
going
all
to
time.
say, why are we all doing the same dance? What is this?
That is. We were doing the Trump dance before Trump did it.
Oh my gosh. I can't. That is the best thing I've seen all day.
But we were like three peas in a pod. So my memory was correct about that, and I was very excited to see that because I love
Oh,
my
I love
siblings so
that.
much, and I've always cherished that memory, and I'm glad that memory is in fact, a very true memory.
I love that.
All right, so another question I had for the two of you was, do you remember your first memory? If you go look back on your life, do you remember your very first memory of being alive or being a child or whatever? So Dave, why don't we start with you since you're the oldest?
Yeah. So when I think Mom told me I was 2 or 2.5 years old. I remember, those door stoppers near the floor that stick out from the wall.
From the wall? Okay, yep.
Yeah. And back in the old days, they used to be like coiled wire and you could like pull on it and it would make like a bang sound. So I remember as a kid playing with that and giggling and then looking up and seeing Dana, our mom and dad, looking down at me, laughing their asses off. And I asked Mom, I remember asking Mom, like, if that actually ever happened. And she like burst out laughing when I mentioned it for the first time. And she said I was like 2 years old and it was at the house on Albion Street.
Yep.
and she said they could hear me. I was behind the door, like the door was open, like ajar, and I was behind the door. They couldn't see me, but they just heard me giggling and the bonging sound, and they just walked over to see what was going on. So that's my earliest memory. I also very, very dimly, so I must have been like around the same age. I remember going to see Star Wars, the first one, at the drive-in. Like very dimly remember that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
How about you, Michelle?
Mine is at the house on, was it Eastwater? Westwater? Eastwater?
Where were you living when you were first born? Yep.
Yes, I remember that Mom was in the bathroom, in the shower. I was outside the door waiting for her to, I don't know, I just needed her for something. I don't know. I was waiting for her, and one of the cats bit my 2 fingers, bit me. And I remember crying, waiting for Mom to get out. I have no idea if that really happened. I don't know if I have no confirmation that this really happened, but that is the memory that I have. Can anyone confirm that?
So it wouldn't have been Jenny, because Jenny wouldn't have fly.
It would have been Cuddles.
Cuddles. It definitely would have been Cuddles.
Yeah.
So we both would have been waiting for Mom outside of the bathroom door, so it tracks? Yeah?
Maybe, yeah. If it was going to be any cat, it would have been Cuddles.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just remember getting bit by a cat.
My first experience with death.
Yeah.
Oh.
Also, Dana actually
Cuddles
came
got
up
hit by a
with
car.
Cuddles' name. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Looking out the window and seeing your cat dead in the road is not a good thing when you're like 6 or 7 years old.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. One of the good things your father did for me was buy Cuddles. I love that cat. And he came home and he just wanted to surprise me with a cat. And I mean, it was really everyone's cat, but he was like, "Oh, Dana will be all excited about it." And I named her Cuddles.
Where'd you get
Mom
the name?
always,
Do you
Mom
remember?
always, I just thought, can we just call the cat Kitty Cuddles? Because I wanted to cuddle with it. And I was like, Cuddles, it's your owner. Mom always used to laugh about that.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my gosh.
So my earliest memory is actually with David, and I would have been about 2, maybe 2.5. So our father and mother were still married, and they were arguing, and he was like in a drunken rage. And I remember hiding under like a coffee table or a side table we had in the living room. I remember it might have been the coffee table, and I was like hiding for cover. And
It was the pull-out couch.
Was it the couch? Okay. So I and Dave was like trying to comfort me and keep me.
I do remember this. Sorry.
Yeah. That's my very first memory. I would have been about 2.5, I think, somewhere in there.
I think you must have been closer to 3 because it was near the end, and they separated when I was like 7 or 8. So yeah, you would have been 2 or 3. But I remember, to keep you distracted, I was telling you that there were like diamonds and rubies and sapphires under the couch, and we had to go look for them.
Yeah. David was trying to keep me distracted and keep me from having to. Yeah, he was like my protector.
Wow. So you took him on a pretend treasure hunt to distract.
Well, that was my first memory.
You're a good big brother.
Yeah.
David was a good brother, big brother. Don't let him fool you.
The great abandonment of Hearts of Park had not happened yet. So.
Yes. Yeah. Caitlin was watching last week, and she goes, "Wow, you guys got a little chippy with each other." We were talking about punishments, and I was like, "Well, I think everyone has like conflicting thoughts about their punishments." But let's move back to that because it can tie into memories too. But see, I had the disadvantage of. So, do you guys remember when Fred threw the drawer at me when he was mad at me?
I don't.
Shelly, you might not remember because you were just a baby.
Yeah.
David, do you remember? You were out, David, but I don't. You must have heard. You must have known him.
I've heard the story.
Okay, so when Mom and Fred first got together, my punishments. Fred is Michelle's dad, for those that don't know. He was responsible for us when Mom was at work. She worked 3 jobs to support us. Fred was self-employed. He was a drummer when they first got together. He was also a photographer, but was not working a whole lot. So Mom did all the work. which meant he was home and in charge of like the discipline and stuff when he was home. So I got in trouble a lot with Frank. Not that I was a bad kid, but what would happen is, at first it was mildly abusive. He would like poke me, smack me on the back of the head. And then it cultivated when I was like 7 years old and he got mad at me and threw the drawer at me, hit me in the foot. I had a huge bruise in my foot. And Mom was home and she grabbed me. She grabbed Shelly. David was out and she just left and we went to Auntie Tany's house. And they were thinking, oh, maybe you should call the police, but she didn't really want to. She wasn't going to leave him. She was a Christian woman, blah, 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 blah. We all know the story. So, but when she did head home, she said, if you ever touch any of my kids again, I will effing kill you.
Oh, I
So,
remember.
That was the end of him ever doing, and to his credit, he never did anything like that. Not that he was like he wasn't like beating me or stuff like that, but it was, looking back on it, it was
It
like
was not okay.
It was
Yeah,
not okay.
not
It would
okay.
not be an okay parenting thing. His punishments tended to be harsh. So even after that, even though he wasn't touching me, he would use the threat of the violence against me. If your mother didn't tell me you were my own kid, I would, he would say stuff like that. But his punishments often were disproportionate to what I did was. So I can remember one time David was out with his friend. Shelly, you were just a toddler, but he made steak and potatoes and beets, and I hated beets. I absolutely hated beets. And so when he left the room, I just threw the beets away because I still don't like beets. But anyways, he found the beets in the trash, got mad at me, and grounded me for 3 days because I threw the beets away. And then Mom, to keep the peace, because she didn't want to start another fight, she would just uphold the groundation. So I don't want to say that I got punished more than you guys, because I think each of you had your own different forms of punishment. I think David tended, because he was the firstborn, got a lot of punishments. I think Shelly, because you were a girl, I'm validating all your punishments. A lot of my punishments stemmed from Mom wanting to keep the peace. So I was unfairly punished for things often when I was growing up. So.
Yeah, I think I remember, I remember you and my dad going at it a few times, like verbally. I remember the verbal shouting, and I remember like calling Mom and was like, they hugged at the end, like this is it, this is their breakthrough. And Mom was like, let's just give it a couple days. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen
Well,
this.
she knew,
She's
like-
like, I've seen this story, and I was like, no, this was different. And I think it was because it was the first time I had
Ever
seen you
witnessed
guys
it?
some sort of, it was a big fight, and then you actually like talked and reconciled, and I was like, oh. And Mom was like, let's just, hold up, like let's just take a beat. But I remember you also getting you got to go, you had karate, so you were out a couple of nights. I remember. Yep. And you were always like a good student. You weren't grounded for your grades. You were, and I remember more of I guess high school Dana, because that would probably be when I would start to really remember things, versus when you were younger, I was a toddler and not knowing what was going on around me at the time.
And not so coincidentally, as I was getting into high school and I was excelling in athletic, I was one of the best runners in the state. All of a sudden, all that love and affection I fought for my stepfather for, that little window of 3 years where I was like an elite athlete and National Honor Society and getting my black belt, I was a son all of a sudden, and it was like, oh, I'm the son now.
I do remember that.
David, do you remember your first huge blow up with him?
There were so many.
There was one massive one you guys had that's because of me. Because you were defending me because I was crying over homework, and he was mad at me because he was mad at me about homework, and I was crying over my homework, and David stepped in to defend me, and they got in a massive blowout. It was the first massive blowout I saw them have, and David was an older teen at that time. So I had the similar experience of watching my brother getting a massive blowout with him the way you did, Shelly, with me when I was a teenager and older. But that last one we had, I do remember the last one we had when I said, that's it, I'm moving out. And he told Mom, oh, we talked about it, we're going to be fine. And I told Mom, no, we're not, I'm moving out. So, but anyway.
Yeah, we also, my dad and I had a big blowout my senior year. And a week later, Mom and him sat me down and they're like, we're separating. And I was like, it's about time. And they were like, what? And I'm like, it's time that you two separate. I'd rather see you both separated and happy than together and miserable. So like, it's fine. They waited till I was, graduated and 18 and everything, which made it, I guess,
But
easier,
do you also remember what
holidays and stuff.
Do you also remember what happened that year, though? Because after that conversation, they didn't talk about it again. Really.
No.
And then it was kind of like...
Oh, so maybe we remember this differently.
Okay.
Because
when he moved out, Mom was kind of caught off guard that it happened so suddenly.
I think they knew it was coming, but I don't think she knew it was going to happen the weekend that it happened.
Mm.
I think she thought it was going to be a little more time, and then she came home and, stuff was gone.
It
And
was
I do
gone,
remember that weekend because Mike and I went to see the lake house with her. And Mike is like, I can't believe you made me see the lake house, with Sandra, but we still talk about it. And Keanu Reeves, he's like, I can't believe I watched that movie. But I was like, we went with my mom. She needed a little pick-me-up, But no, it was because I remember actually it was the first time I ever felt like I was drowning. It was my senior year, you wanted your senior yearbook, you had to pay for that. You wanted your cap and gown, you had to pay for that. You had to get your senior prom ticket, all this stuff. It was all this money. And I couldn't keep up. My grades were suffering. I had gotten a terrible progress report. I was in tears at the kitchen table with Mom. And he came in and he said, he was like, you need to do better than this. You're a effing screw up. And Mom stood up and was like, don't you talk to my daughter like that. And then that was it. A week later, they were getting separated. That was it. And I'll never forget that him saying that to me. I was like, ugh, makes me so mad. Yeah, I had a lot of unresolved anger towards my dad that I worked through therapy and I can come up with good memories now too. But I know he was not an easy man. But I understand him a little bit more, working through and seeing how you're grown up. You either break it or you don't. And he had demons and he's gone now. There's nothing we can do about it. But yeah.
Yeah. On that note, you've all been watching SibRiv in the last episode. Now that my brother and sister no longer want to do this podcast with me for drudging up family drama.
It was good while it lasted.
We had a good run.
Oh gosh, should we talk about some good memories?
Yeah, I didn't know we were gonna stop and smell the poison flowers growing along memory lane.
Sorry,
I mean,
guys.
I came prepared.
All because I felt like I had to correct the record on the punishment thing last week. Because I wanted to know you guys, I was understanding of your stance on punishment you received, but also I also felt that I was unfairly punished a lot. Now that we've gotten that out of the way. All right, so we did the three of us. We did our very first memory. Have you ever had a shared memory with other people that you remembered different than them? Aside from things that we've already talked about.
I thought about that and I can't really think of one that either I didn't know the person felt differently. We've never had a conversation, but I can't think of anything.
Really?
Yeah.
How about you, Dave?
Nothing really comes to mind, although I'm sure it has happened. I know there are examples where I remember something differently than the other people that I was a part of that experience remembered it. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's like I definitely know for sure I've had that experience where I've remembered something. I can think of something. This is a little different, but Shelly, do you remember, because you were with us when Hunter was like 2 years old, and we went to Reed's Pond for a picnic?
I do.
And
they fell in the mud.
Mom was holding. So Landon was just a baby. Hunter was 2. Mom was holding Hunter. She was wearing white pants and a white shirt. Do I remember that correctly? And
I think she was in white pants and a pink shirt.
Okay.
I remember her in a different color.
Definitely in white pants.
Yep.
And she slipped and they fell in the mud together. And Hunter remembered that. Hunter had that memory until he was like, he didn't talk about it I remember he was like probably 10 years old, and Mom was over one day, and he goes, "Mimi, do you remember when we fell in the mud?" And she was like, "You remember that?" Now he doesn't remember it. Now he's 16. He doesn't remember it. But when he was
Really?
10, he did. He didn't talk about it. And it's kind of like ties into like a lot of times so a lot of people think about memory as like, it's like a video storage, like a cinema, and you can pull that video out, and that's not really how it works. Or they think like it's a library and you pull the book from the library. If you think about it, the neurons are firing and traveling down your neural pathways, kind of almost like traveling down a highway. So the more you think about something, you think about that memory, the more it gets reinforced. So he never really talked about it, so I didn't know he was ever really thinking about it. But it seems like once he talked about it with Mom and laughed about that memory, he just never talked about it again, and then never thought about it again, and then now he doesn't remember it. Now that he's 16.
That's so
but
funny. I do know that like sometimes they say kids remember memories because people talk about them. So like I have memories of Mom telling me stories of before I was around. So now I feel like, oh yeah, I remember that, but I wasn't there. And I remember, like taking trips to Maine and like I don't know, I just know kids like if the more you talk about a memory, it becomes their memory even though they're really too little to remember it.
Yeah.
I have heard that happens with kids.
Yeah,
But
and that can kind of tie in with like the false memories I was talking about at the beginning too, because like one of the studies I read, and they had like a 30% rate of people falsely remembering something, and they showed like a masked person breaking into a store, and just phrasing it the way they phrased the questions to the people, where they were able to influence their memory. So like with most of the people, they said, describe the person you saw breaking into the store. And then with like half the people, they said, describe the man you saw breaking into the store. And then with half of that group, they said, do you remember the man having a beard or a mustache? So even he was masked and you couldn't see any of the pictures, but they were able to directly affect people's memories just by the way they phrased those questions. So they were answering questions they really shouldn't have been able to remember because they didn't see it. But sometimes just the way people ask things, they can influence your memory too.
wow. Like brain is such a wild thing.
It's crazy.
Like,
yeah. I've always been fascinated by memory, which is why I was like, it was one of the reasons I want to talk, because I'm so curious about like the memories of my own family and if we share the same memories, because it'd be really sad to not have that. Like, it'd be really sad if I had that memory of us three at the wedding, just being inseparable. And then I went and I saw that we weren't talking to each other, and maybe David was yelling at us. I would have been devastated because I've always had that memory in my head, and I've always cherished it as like this, like the first time the three of us were like super tight. And I was like very excited and kind of relieved that was true. Because there was part of me that was like, did that really happen?
What about the Mandela effect memories? You guys got any of those?
So the first one, so there's only one that affects me that I can think of.
was it the guy in the movie?
Yep.
There's a guy that's in a movie that
It's Sinbad.
Yes. Apparently he was never in that movie.
So I distinctly remember it. I really do.
You didn't. Because I thought I did too, but it's not real.
I'm going to remove that. I'm going to present this screen. Yeah, I really remember Sinbad being in a movie where he was a genie called Shazam, and people will say, no, you're thinking of Shaq being in Kazam, which I remember as well. But I distinctly remember Sinbad being in the movie Shazam, and he never was, apparently.
Really?
So this is...
I remember that too.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. It's fake. It never existed. He was never in a movie called... And you can check his IMDb. He was never in a movie called Shazam. And, so that's one of the Mandela effect things. The other thing is like the Berenstain Bears. people remember it being the Berenstein or Berenstein Bears.
Yeah, aren't they?
It's the Berenstain Bears, which I remember. But people will look at it and be like, no, it was spelled differently.
Oh. I guess I didn't realize that it was spelled differently.
Yeah, Berenstain, not Berenstein or Berenstein.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's see. The Berenstain Bears.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's another Mandela effect thing. People think it was Berenstein.
Yeah,
or
like
Berenstein.
Stein.
E-I-N, yep.
Wow.
But I remember it being the Berenstain Bears, but other people don't.
Wow.
Any Mandela effect things ever affected you too?
No, the only
Well,
one
apparently
I know is
Shazam affected David because he thought so too.
yeah. No, I knew that. That's really the only one I could think of for Mandela effect. Like I thought for sure that movie existed.
Do you know where the Mandela effect came from?
Mm-mm.
Yes.
Oh.
So Nelson Mandela, who was the leader of South Africa, while he was imprisoned before he got elected to office, and people, apparently millions around the world, remembered him dying in prison.
And remember seeing pictures of his funeral.
Yeah, and he didn't. He got out of prison, and then he went on to be the president of the country in South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I've had. I think we live. I'm starting to really believe in simulation theory. No, I'm serious.
Like the Matrix. Like take the blue or red pill or whatever.
But
unplug me,
it's a theory that actually, scientists have actually looked at. I've never had, other than Shazam, right, or whatever, the Sinbad genie movie, which I do distinctly remember.
See?
There's been lots of little glitches where I remember something. And I'll tell you, back in 2016, I distinctly remember seeing on Yahoo, just bear with me here, reading that they had discovered a cure for cancer. And there was an article with a headline, and I remember getting to the first paragraph, and then I had to go do something else, but I could never find that article again. And I remember it was the weirdest thing to me because I thought it would be like major news. Never. And I remember I mentioned it to a friend of mine, a coworker, and she's like, I remember seeing that. So it wasn't like a widespread major, but it was just this like weird little glitch.
Interesting. Do you think there's a cure for cancer? Going way off topic for 1 second.
Going way up. I think there's a cure for cancer. I think there's probably some engine out there that is powered by water. I think, they haven't bothered to scrub this from the interwebs, but there was that Israeli defense chief like 4 or 5 years ago who said that aliens are real and, the world leaders know all about it. This wasn't just some like crackpot though. Like this is, so I think it's all at least possible.
And on that note, you've been watching the Joe Rogan Experience.
Well, speaking of, I watched clips of his interview with the orange guy. And when he asked him about like UFOs and aliens, he wouldn't let him answer. And I'm like, let the man answer. Because Trump seemed like he was going to like drop something if you watch that clip. And then Rogan would just keep interrupting. And I was like, damn it, man, I want to know.
Oh, okay. So Dave believes in aliens. Dana, do you think there's a cure for cancer, and do you believe in aliens?
I do think there probably is a cure for cancer. I believe in aliens. I don't know that necessarily that they've visited Earth yet, because I don't know. I just think the vastness of space is just so big. It just would seem weird if it would be weird to me if there wasn't aliens, honestly.
This is why I think they've arrived, right? And I'm like half joking, half serious. If you look at the progress of like human technology and just the advances we've made, like within the last 40, 50 years, I mean, it's pretty incredible when you consider we were we were an agrarian culture for thousands of years, and then like we slowly made these advances in technology, but it's really accelerated.
Mm-hmm.
Like 50, 60 years ago, nobody would have been able to predict that we would actually have like smartphones. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where you have all the information you would want, or misinformation or whatever, at your fingertips. So I just think the speed of technology, I don't think it's all entirely human ingenuity. We're too stupid. I think we've had some help along the way.
I don't know. I
really
think
do.
as technology advances, it helps us advance more technology, though.
No, that's true. That's true. But I'm just looking at, especially within the last, not just 40 years, I mean like the last 20 years, we've been, and now we're developing AI, and pretty soon we're going to have robot overlords, and,
The AI stuff makes me nervous.
Well, before AI takes over and ruins our lives, let's continue down memory lane, shall we? So, a few more questions I had for you guys about memories. Looking back on your life, do you guys want to do happy, bad memories first?
We've already done sad.
We've done. Let's just do happy, man.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Well,
I'm
because-
ready for happy memories.
Okay. So, do you
I mean,
have...
I can go first, is what I meant.
Okay. So when you look back on your life, do you have a happiest memory?
So I went through and I picked a favorite memory for like everyone. Like I did a favorite memory with Dave, favorite memory with you, like I broke it down by person because I couldn't pick just one. It's hard
I just
to
meant
pick,
like
just
I
one.
meant just like a favorite personal memory of yourself. But I mean, you can do however you want to do. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So Dave, my favorite memory of when I was little. I don't know if you remember this. You took me to Stop and Shop. Do you remember?
Yep,
in the
I
red
do.
Camaro.
Yep.
I sat in the front, which totally was not allowed, but we were like going down the street or something. And you bought me ramen noodles for like
we went
11
to Abington.
cents.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Abington.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember what Stop and Shop, if it was in Rockland or not, but
It was the one in Abington. Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah,
not just
I
down the street, but
remember.
around the corner, then down the street.
But I remember the red Camaro. I remember the noodles. It was awesome. I don't remember why you needed to go to Stop and Shop, though.
There was a cute girl that worked there, and I just wanted to know if she was going to be there or not.
No, sir.
Yeah.
That's
Why
amazing.
else would I go to the Stop and Shop in Abington, which was like 4 miles away, instead of the one that was like a mile from where we lived?
I don't know.
Sorry to ruin your memory, but yeah.
No, I remember the red Camaro, and I remember thinking like, oh my god, this is so cool. Like my brother's driving me. I was like,
Yeah.
what, like 6? Like how old was I? I don't even
Yeah.
know. I was little.
Yeah, you would have been 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was 18, 19 when I had that car.
Really?
I have a memory with Mom in that car. So that winter was like one of the worst for snowfall for
Mhm.
Massachusetts in
You
like
got
recent
stuck all the
memory.
time in that car too.
I
Yeah.
got stuck all the time. And I remember I was driving Mom home from work, and I got stuck on the side of the road, and a plow came by and plowed me in even more. And I just let off this like screaming rant of profanity while Mom's right next to me, like screaming, like leaning out my window in the snow and flipping the guy off and like screaming at the plow. And Mom's like, David. And I'm like, yeah. I don't remember how I got us out of there. To
Did
be
you have a
honest,
shovel?
we did. I must have had something. I remember. I mean, we got home, and we didn't have anybody come out to help us, so I must have shoveled us out. But yeah, I was.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's why I don't live in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's why.
Crap like that.
Yeah, because where you live now, you never get snow. You don't have to have snow chains in your car for all times of year. Okay. Dana, I have a lot of collective memories with you as well because we spent a lot of time together.
Mhm.
So I have going to the mall. You used to take me to the mall all the time. You used to take me to the movies all the time. You used to take me out to eat. We spent a ton of time together. So all those small little moments, and then of course the first Dashboard concert. and like screaming, screaming infidelities on the way home from Dave's bridal shower through Quincy, screaming that song because it was the first time you had me listen to Dashboard Confessional. It was like, oh, it was the best. I remember that. So good.
Still remember
So
that
good.
concert. We went like 4 hours
Wicked
early.
early. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. I wore my red Taking Back Sunday shirt because you told me no one wears the band that they're going to see. And to this day, I still don't do that.
Good.
But I don't know why. Why can't I wear
You
but
don't do
why?
that. You wear a different band shirt.
Yeah.
But
You don't.
why? I want to know why.
Because you don't want to be a poser. That's why.
Yeah.
Posers wear the band they're going to.
Whatever.
If you were a real fan of the band, you'd wear a different band shirt that lets everybody else know that you're with it and you.
Yeah. How smart, how
you're
musically
part
savvy
of the
you are.
seat. Yes.
Yes, I'm aware. Well, I didn't know why, but I still hold that rule. Like when we go to concerts, and we go to a lot, I'm always like, oh, I have a stretch shirt, but I can't wear the stretch. I guess I'll wear the Red Rum Club shirt because, I can't wear the same band. Oh, we're going to see, the Wombats. I'll wear my stretch shirt. It's just so stupid. I want to wear the shirt of the band I'm going to see, but I'm not allowed. Whatever. My favorite memory with Mom. I have a few, but 3 really stuck out at me. Actually, it was 4. I'm just gonna name them all because now I'm talking and talking. We went to Sears once and got 8 outfits on clearance for $50. We still talked about it to the day she died. We loved telling everyone what a great deal we got on those outfits. And I'll never forget, I had a blue skirt. It was really flowery. Oh, it was so pretty. And yeah, we just got a lot of clearance that day, and we still talked about it. There was one day we had dessert first for dinner. We went to Butterfields and we got a sundae and we split that at 6. And then at 9:00 we ordered Chinese food for dinner. So much fun. We had dessert first. When I was, remember when in middle school when I was getting into trouble a little bit? Do you guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if David knew about that or not.
He wasn't really around the house. He was
Yeah.
out by then, right? So.
I was hanging out with kids I shouldn't have been hanging out with and stuff. And so Mom took me away to the the Radisson, what was it, the Ramada Inn at the time in Rockland. And for that overnight, she was my friend and not my mom, and I could tell her whatever, and there was no judgment, no, I wasn't gonna be grounded. It was a complete open. I could tell her whatever. And we watched the movie What Women Want, and we were in hysterics laughing for the whole. We watched that movie over and over and over again. We thought it was the funniest thing, and that was one of the best memories. And for Christmas, the year that she died, I was gonna take her away on an overnight because we hadn't done it since I was, probably before I got married. So it had been a while since we had done a little weekend getaway, and that was gonna be her gift that year. But yeah, I love that memory. So funny. And then the other one was when we danced in the recital. She danced with me one year. Those are my other ones. Which, if I had known I could have just recorded a little bit of our dance without the music, I would have done that. So because we could have seen it. Have you guys ever seen it? Our dance from the recital?
I feel like I did see
I
it.
think we might have.
Yeah. Okay. If
Do you
not,
have
we're watching.
Do you have a favorite memory of your father?
I do actually. Yep, I do. So, obviously there's some stuff there. But anytime he had money, it burned a hole in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would go to the deli up on Union Street, and he would buy a Thanksgiving sandwich, the turkey stuffing cranberry, that he would cut it in half, and he would save me half for when I got home from school. So every, it didn't happen a lot, but there were a couple more. I mean, I remember it happening, so I think it was more than 1 or 2 times. But it would be a Friday, and I'd come home from school, and there'd be half a sandwich in my, in the fridge for me. So I love that memory. I love those sandwiches. So on the anniversary of his death, which was actually yesterday, Mike and I get toasted Thanksgiving sandwiches as a, what they say to honor honor the dead or whatever. So we do that every year. And so I had one yesterday. It's like I only really only eat them once a year, but yeah, so that's one of my favorite memories. And then when he was gigging a lot, he would get paid and he'd stop at like the Mobile or whatever, probably to buy cigarettes, and he would bring me home a Clearly Canadian. I don't know if you guys remember those
I
remember
drinks.
that. Yep.
Yep.
You can get it.
And
You can get them again now.
I know. I
Cost
got
that like
them.
$5 a bottle. But
I know. I did when I saw them. The first time I saw them, it was at a candy store, and I freaked out. I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "I haven't had one of these since I was a kid. My
You were
dad
the
used
first
to bring
person-
me one."
You were the first person I thought of when I saw them.
Yeah. So that's a nice memory that that I have. So.
Dave, how about you? Happiest memory?
I've got a lot of really happy memories, which might be surprising because I'm a cynical bastard. But actually, I do have one about Michelle's dad. He took me in to see the Celtics when he was still doing he was doing freelance photography for them. This is during the Big Three era, so this is when Bird, Parrish, Ainge, my favorite Celtic, Dennis Johnson, next to Larry Bird, of course, McHale. So we went up.
Mom's favorite, McHale.
Yeah, we went up to the press box before, and like there was food there and everything, and then we went right down on the floor and sat out of bounds at
Oh, that's
center,
cool.
right at center court, and they had like the name of the photographer like taped down on the court, and that was where you sat. So I got Casey Jones's autograph. He was the coach back then. And when I walked up, he was doing an interview. So I just like waited. And then when he was done, I walked up with a notepad and a pen and I asked him if I could get his autograph. And he just looked down at me and smiled and gave it to me.
He brought me.
And they played the Spurs. They won 122 to 110 that night. So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
He brought me to see them play the Bulls.
Hmm.
And so I got to see him play Michael Jordan. And Larry Bird autographed my photo. A photo of him. And
Figures.
I gave it away. No, I was in first grade, and I gave it to Jill Anderson because I had a huge crush on her.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave. I just you talking about that made me think of that.
So this isn't like a major happy like event or anything like that, but so I mean, you guys knew the group of friends I grew up with, and that was when I was growing up. We were a bunch of simps. I mean, it was like all the girls in the group, pretty much anything they wanted is what they got, and that was pretty much like all as the boys. That was all of our mindset. But I think in that group, you kind of knew who like the leaders were. And, I was like more one of like the bit players. Right. But I remember when I went to Montana, I had a group of friends that I would go up to Canada with. And the first time we went to Canada, we went out to this Irish pub and I was telling a story and I realized everybody was paying attention and nobody was interrupting. And it was like, I remember how I felt. It was like the sun had come out on a bright day. It was like, oh, wow, this is what it's like to not have people talk over you. and people at least pretend that they're interested in what you're saying. I was like holding court. So that was actually like a really good memory of mine of like realizing like, oh, this is like not every friend group is the same, and I was like 21 at that point. So like pretty much every friend group I'd had to that point, and I'd had one primarily friend group, kind of operated on its own sort of rules. I mean, we all used to call it the group, which, yeah. Anyway, but I think my happiest memory, I apologize to all my friends and all my family. My very happiest memory was the day I graduated high school.
Oh. Because you were getting out?
Because I was getting out.
Yeah.
That was that, and that wasn't just that day, that whole summer. And even like the last 2 or 3 months of my senior year, it was like, I think I told you, I from the time I was 10, my goal was I'm out of Rockland. And just to have this long held ambition finally within my grasp made me very, very happy. I don't know if I've ever come close to feeling that level of happiness since.
I think my happiest memory, like, it's so hard, right? Because it's like moments of like your life, right? But like when I got married, I would relive my wedding day every day. That was a great memory. Like moving into this house, that was a great memory. So like there are memories where I wish I could go back and relive it. But I can't say that it's like my favorite memory because your life, so much happens in your life, you know, you're in just different chapters. And but like I have to say, like getting married and buying the house, like those were great, great, great memories. Like I loved that. Oh, I wish I could do it all the time. It's so good. I mean, it's a lot of work, but you know, to move in every day. But how about you, Dana?
Yeah, when I think about like David, I have a lot of happy memories, which despite what some would consider a very traumatic life, I do have a lot of happy memories. Whenever I think about my happiest memory, like one of the first ones that comes to mind is the day Hunter was born and the day I became a dad, because it was like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. It was magical. I don't think without being a parent, you can understand what it's like when you suddenly are responsible for that person and you have this, like, you don't realize how much you could possibly love this thing that you just created with somebody else. And I love all my kids equally, but just the day the Hunter was born and that realization that this and everything Caitlin went, I mean, basically 3 days of labor to get them. And, you know, and I have mixed emotions about that time because I got let go from my job, a really good job right after that too, like literally the week after. So that led to, you know, 2-3 years of really hard times on us after that because of that. But in that moment, that was like one of the happiest moments of my life was when we had Hunter. As far as like shared happy memories I have with you guys, David, I remember David taking me to see The Cable Guy. It was probably like his 4th time seeing that movie when he brought me, but that was like very special to me. David, do you remember the first time, probably my only time going with you, but we went to Montreal?
Yep, I remember that.
Yep.
That was and I won $250 at the hotel on the slot machine.
Yeah. You also won 500. You won 500 at the casino too. Remember, because you were shocked because you won, and like literally 5 seconds later, the guy was like, "Oh, congratulations,
like
sir!" He was like scared, like it was programmed to win. Like right at that moment, the guy was like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a lot of happy memories. I mean, Shelly, we have countless happy memories together. So
I know.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, it's, you know, from like just watching you grow up, singing into the carpet sweeper as your microphone.
My another happy, and it's a series of happy memories from the old days, is when everybody would be gone from the house, and I don't know, like I don't know where you guys would be, but I would sit in the monster chair, you know, just kind of recline in the monster chair and have the apartment to myself and just be watching hockey. And just thinking to myself, like, yeah, you know, when I'm out on my own, this is what my house is going to be like. It's going to be nice and chill.
And I'm going to have a monster chair.
And I'm going to get one of these monster chairs.
I would not be surprised if David has a monster chair in his living room right now.
I don't. I wish I did, but I don't.
Oh my god, do they make adult versions of monster? Well, recliners, right? That's like the adult version, but it doesn't have the blue face on it.
It doesn't have the blue face. And there was a way, because, you know, Dana probably knows what I'm talking about because you were just little, but because it was built for like a little kid, but you could recline where it just perfectly supported your upper back, shoulders, and neck, and you could have your arms over the side. I mean, the rest of you would be on the floor, but it was really comfortable.
Where did that blue chair come from? Does anyone know?
It was just one of your
gifts.
It
was a Christmas. It was like a Christmas
gift to you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if like mom bought it. Like I knew it was my chair, but I didn't know like where it came from. But oh, that's so funny.
Some of my favorite memories of you and Fred Shelley are when we taught you how to ride your bike.
I knew you were going to bring this up.
So me and Michelle's dad were out teaching her how to ride her bike, and she fell off. She like hit her chin on the handlebars, and like I think you lost a tooth. Did you lose a tooth? I don't remember. You definitely bit your
No.
lip or something. You definitely bit your
I
lip.
bit my lip.
And you were like, is it bleeding? And we were like, yeah. And you're like, "Wah!" You started screaming bloody murder. You started bawling your eyes out. You were laughing about it until we told you were bleeding. And then you just started bawling your eyes out. And me and your dad were just like dying. But my other favorite memory of that we shared with him is when he would participate in our videos. Mm-hmm. And we did like the bouncy ball video, and he was our announcer.
Yeah.
Michelle, you look a little
so
disheveled. If I could find those videos,
Oh, I know.
I think
I
I'd
don't
have
know
them
what-
somewhere. I think I must have them somewhere. But
That would be a gem to find. Oh, I found some of the old wrestling photos that we had, like when we had Rockland World
Wrestling Federation?
Yeah, whatever it was. Oh, that was good stuff. Good stuff.
yeah, so memory lane.
Oh.
I know.
When I was little, so back in the early 80s, Dana would have been too young for this, but breakdancing was all the rage when I was in elementary school. And Auntie and Uncle Dana had their apartment in Quincy, and I used to try to breakdance in their kitchen.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
We're
I
a
wonder
dancey
if they
family.
remember that.
We're a very dancey family.
We are. We have the rhythm. The rhythm
Well,
is in us.
You two do. I don't.
You have rhythm.
I think that video that we showed
That-
clearly shows that you got the rhythm too, Dave.
Yeah, you can stay on the beat with us. David, do you sing at all?
Oh, no.
No, you can't. Like,
So when I was in Vietnam last month, I went out with Y and all her high school friends, and we went to a karaoke room, like where you rent out the room or whatever.
yeah.
And they made me sing. So I did do the Humpty Dance, and I sang a 90s song that I really like. And then they had me sing this song called Happy New Year. They're like, you have to sing Happy New Year. And I'm like, I don't know this song. So I basically sang a song. Might have imbibed a few beverages. So I just sang this song, and I have no idea if I sang it correct. I can't sing at all.
Is
I
that
tried.
true?
I
You
tr-
can't sing, or
I tried in front of Mom once. Mom,
Oh,
who is
okay.
very supportive, who used to say, "Oh, honey, you could have been a pro baseball player if you just stuck with baseball." I sang in front of her once, and she said, "David, you sound like a dying cat."
I was
no
going to
way
say,
she said those exact words.
She did. She did.
I was going to say, Dave, you might as well start practicing and brushing up because next week on SibRiv, we're doing SibRiv karaoke.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I was like, "But Mom, I love music. I just wish I could play." And she said, "You're a musician at heart, honey. That's what really counts."
Now that sounds like Mom. Because Dana, you can carry a tune. I didn't know that though until we did
Kinda.
karaoke at my birthday a couple of years ago.
You don't remember doing karaoke?
I
Do you remember
do,
going-
at
It was Cataloni's back then.
Cataloni's.
Cataloni's.
Yes.
mean, you,
Another
me,
great memory.
Mom and Fred went and we did
Yep.
karaoke. And then Mom was surprised that I could sing.
Yeah.
She's like, I didn't know you could sing. I was like, Mom, you did a chorus thing with me one year when I was younger.
Yes, that's right. Yep, I remember that.
But no, I really can't sing.
Well, you can carry a tune though.
I can
Like
carry
you
a
can
tune.
do karaoke.
Yeah, I'm
Bob
okay.
still talks about the when we all did Love Shack. I mean, that was a hit. That was a good one. Maybe we can do karaoke, Dave, when you come for a visit the next time you come.
I'm sure my wife would love that.
Yes.
But I will not be doing it.
I used to.
Yeah, Dana.
I
let's
can't
make that
sing. I sing
happen.
every song. I do it. I
I
sing every
love
song.
to sing. I love to sing.
It's fun.
Oh, it's the best. I sing all the time. I hum all the time. It's great. Yeah, it's awesome.
You might say David's irrational hatred of singing.
I love
That's
music.
true.
Don't get me wrong. I love
Mhm.
music, but
Yeah, you don't like when people bust into song.
just randomly. When they do it randomly, it's very vexing to me. Like, nobody has that much business being so happy in that moment. Like, take
Maybe
that
they
crap
do.
elsewhere.
How do you know? Maybe they just won $1 million.
Yeah.
You wouldn't sing a little tune if you just won $1 million?
If
I
I
mean-
if I ever won $1 million, nobody would know.
You guys saying $1 million is making me want to sing if I had $1 million. That's how my brain works. Is someone can say something and I'm like, oh, song, let me sing it. You know, that's how my brain works.
Well,
So, well, it was wonderful going down memory lane with you both. And
Yes.
Michelle, you have next week's topic. What are we going to be talking about?
Well, funny enough, we're going to be talking about irrational thoughts, irrational fears, irrational hatreds.
Yes,
of
we're going to
things.
revisit that for Dana, I guess.
Yeah, just any, any irrational feelings or anything, just irrational thought. Yeah, just thoughts, irrational thoughts. Because I definitely have some irrational fears that they are ridiculous. I don't know where they come from, but I know they're irrational.
Well, it's a good thing we have a therapist in the family to help us
That's
deal with
true.
that.
Yes, that's good.
Well, stay tuned for episode 5 when we talk about people's irrational thoughts. And we hope you enjoyed this episode of SibRiv. If you do, make sure you like, subscribe. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. All of those things help us jump up in the algorithm. We hope you found this episode entertaining. Until next week, everybody, have a wonderful week.
Bye.
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 SibRiv is produced by DS Entertainment Network and Dana Scott. Your hosts are David Scott, Dana Scott, and Michelle Zaborski. Our theme song is Alone Tonight by Ocean Drive, which can be found on creatormix.com. Be sure to check the description below for links to our social media, YouTube, and Spotify pages. The Sibling Rivalry Podcast uploads a new episode every Monday. Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you can be made aware every time a new episode drops. Welcome to episode 4 of SibRiv. My ribs.
I don't think so. I think it's. I would say it's like a compromise. Like, okay, I'll use the karaoke example, right? I went out with my wife and all of her old friends, right? It's their first time meeting me. I know she's been telling them what a wonderful, fun-loving person I am. And here I am, my worst nightmare. We're in a karaoke room with a bunch of strangers and my new bride, and she wants me to sing. It's going to make my wife happy. It's going to help her have a good time with her friends.
Always remember to make time for each other.
I was speaking of chicken, so I was my video chat with Hawaii last night. She was at her parents' house and they have chickens, and there was a rooster like constantly going off, right? And she was like, "Oh, making all this noise," and I'm like, "Yeah, roosters are jerks. They never shut up." After about an hour after we were done with our video chat, she sends me a picture of the chicken in the pot, and she goes, "He's not making any sounds now."